Well, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Prison Bosses. I am so excited today to bring you this guest. Me and this person, we connected some years back. I was watching his work. I became a fan of his work and what he was doing. I believe in his work and what he's doing. This gentleman has gone from incarceration to being a true boss. So much so that his business is now a case study for Harvard Business School. He's been able to crowdfund or raise funds of over $3 million. And every single month, over 5 million incarcerated individuals are able to access his platform, his technology. So it's with great honor that I introduce you all to my friend Harley Blakeman of Honest Jobs. Harley, how are you doing? And thank you for being with us, sir.
Yeah, I'm doing good, Trent. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate the time. I'm excited to be on your podcast and to share some good news with the people listening.
Same here, brother. And I appreciate you being with us. I know you got some jewels for us. And so let's just jump right in. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you were raised, a little bit about your upbringing, and what led to you becoming incarcerated.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do that. I'll say some of the people listening may have already heard my story because we have an application on the tablets inside. So if the name Harley Blakeman rings a bell, that's me from the Honest Jobs app that you may have used to search for jobs inside. But a little bit about myself. You know, I was part of a very small family. It was me, my mom, dad, my brother. That was it. I didn't really have a lot of uncles or aunts, grandmas in my life. It was just me and my brother and my parents. I moved around a lot as a kid. Born in Dallas, lived in Arkansas for a little while, lived in Florida, North Central Florida for about 13 years, just outside of Gainesville. And then when I was a kid growing up in Florida, it was a small town, one red light, a lot of problems in that town, a
Yep.
lot of problems in that town that I wouldn't know about until my later teen years. But I
Mm-hmm.
just grew up. I wasn't really into sports all that much. I was really into music. I played drums. I skateboarded. I was always out in the street skateboarding. And
Wow.
unfortunately, around the age of 13, 14, my mom got heavily addicted to drugs and alcohol, divorced my dad, and just disappeared from my
Mm,
life. She's now
mm,
part of my life again, but there was 10 years of my life that she wasn't involved at all. And we've healed
right.
that relationship. But around 13, it was just me, my dad, and my brother. And
Mm,
about a year and a half after that, my dad passed away in a motorcycle accident.
mm.
He used to drive a Harley. That's why my name is Harley. He was really into Harleys.
Wow.
And one day he drove his motorcycle to work and got in an accident and passed away when I was
Mm.
15. So at 15 years old, it was just me and my brother. And at that time, my brother was 18. He had just finished high school. And like I said, in this small town, nobody went to college. Nobody did
Yep.
nothing. Everybody worked at like the electric company or the gas
Mm-hmm.
station, or honestly, they sold drugs and they
Yep. Yep.
scrapped metal and they robbed people and all types of crazy stuff in this backwoods town. But my brother, he wasn't prepared to take care of me. I mean, he was 18. He worked at the grocery
Right.
store. He also started using drugs. He
Mm.
was using Oxycontin and Xanax and obviously like drinking, smoking weed, stuff like that. But when my dad passed, it really caused him to go off a cliff. He started
Mm-hmm.
using heroin when I was probably,
Mm.
and I
Mm.
saw what that was doing to my brother. And I was already used to being in the streets all the time skateboarding, so it wasn't weird for me to be familiar with drug dealing and familiar with all
Mm-hmm.
that. But after my dad
Mm-hmm.
passed, I really got in. I fell into it because I had nowhere to go. I was sleeping
Yep.
on couches, bouncing from house to house, trying to find a place to stay. Never had
Mm.
clean laundry, didn't have a car, so I
Mm.
quickly like dropped out of high school. 16 years old, nowhere to
Yep.
be, nothing to do. Got sucked into drug dealing.
Yep.
It started small, like it usually does, selling weed,
Mm.
whatever. But I quickly started getting fronted stuff, more advanced stuff.
Mm.
This person would front me 50 Xanax or 50 Oxycontin, and before you know it, I was selling a couple hundred a week.
Yep.
And
Yep.
16, 17 years old, eventually I was able to get myself a car and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
just fully bought into the lifestyle. I was listening to like the craziest gangster rap stuff out of Florida and riding around thinking boss. And
Yep. Yep.
I had a lot of entrepreneurial spirit.
Yep.
I didn't know nothing but how to think about making money every day.
Mm.
I was relatively good at what I call weed math. I was good at math. I figured I knew exactly how much I needed to spend to make this much and do all the stuff. And around the age of 17, I met some dudes from Georgia, and that's kind of really where I expanded into more of like a real criminal activity where I was taking stuff across state lines. And I had this one dude
Mm,
in Savannah, Georgia that would buy pretty much as I could get him every week. I could just take it to one person. I got to a point where I
mm,
was making 4 or 5 grand a week at
mm.
17, 18 years old. And unfortunately, one of the dudes I used to skate with in Georgia, he got arrested selling an ounce to an undercover, and then he rolled on me. So
Yep,
and when I
yep.
came up to Savannah one week, I'm just sitting at a red light and like 10 cop cars surround me, and I got busted with, I don't know, 300 oxys, 250 Xanax, half pound of weed. I had like a bunch of stuff on me. It was my first time ever being arrested, but
Yep,
they
yep.
seized my car, seized all my money, took everything. I was homeless again, didn't have money for
Mm.
an attorney. I ended up taking a plea bargain. I did 14 months in Georgia and another 7 years on probation. Which while I
Phew.
was incarcerated, I got real lucky. I was able to finish my probation in Ohio. But yeah, that's kind of the
Okay.
story of how I ended up incarcerated.
So, I heard a lot of good things there. I mean, I heard a lot of not good things, things that I think are familiar to a lot of the listeners and can really gravitate towards. I myself, like you, small town boy, just in New York City. I mean, upstate New York. Lost my father at a young age, at 8. Mother battled addiction, so I was living with grandparents.
Yeah,
Made it very easy to turn to the streets, like you said. For
yeah,
me, my story is at 19, though, instead of 17, that's when I caught my drug charge, and I was given a 4 to 12. And so I think a lot of our listeners could definitely relate, bro. It's a common theme. It's unfortunate. One, I want to say I really feel for you for being at a young age, the situation between the parents, especially losing your father, essentially losing your mother for 10 years due to the addiction, and putting you and your brother kind of just in this space of survival. And I think that's a space where most of our listeners are used to being in a survival mode. And so now you do your time inside of jail. You get released, and you mentioned going to Ohio. How'd you end up in Ohio, and then what happens from there?
yeah. Well, just like you said, grandmothers always find a way to
Hmm.
provide when they need to. And I wasn't close with my grandma, but when I was incarcerated, she found out I was in there, and she found a way to write me. So probably the
Hmm.
last 5, 6 months I was locked up, I was writing back and forth with my grandma, and I, for the first time, built a relationship with her. And really, for the first time in my life, at least first time since I was 13, I felt like there was someone who believed in me that, like, I don't want to
Mm.
let this woman down. I don't want to
Yep.
hurt this woman. Like, I can
Yep.
tell that she feels pain that not only has her son passed away, but now her grandson is incarcerated. And
Hmm.
my dad was kind of the black sheep of the family, but my grandma, so his mom and his brothers and sisters were all very successful. They weren't like rich, but they were like went to college. They were school
Yep.
teachers, principals, owned
Yep.
businesses in Ohio. And she was just like, "Look, we love you. We're sorry we weren't there for you, but if you're
Mm.
willing to move to Ohio, we'll pick you up the day you get out."
Mm.
And
Mm.
yep, that was tough, man, because I was in there thinking like, all I know is the town I grew up in. That's all I know,
Yep.
and it's a big decision to just say, I'm just going to go do something completely new.
Agree.
But that's what felt right. I knew I had been reading books. I got my GED. I had seen
Mm.
the dudes I was locked up with and the lifestyle they were on, and I knew I didn't want
Yep.
none of that. I don't want to
Yep.
be here again 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. Definitely don't
Yep.
want to be like one of these dudes that are 67 years old sitting in prison.
I agree. I
So
agree.
I took that opportunity, and I'm so glad I did, man. I'll tell you, prison saved my life. Like, it
Mm.
really,
Mm.
it can mess you up, but
Yep.
if you're able to play the mind game and say, this is my chance, this is my rock bottom, that I'm gonna, like, the solid ground I can stand up on is like, I can leave here and start completely new as a different person. I
Yep.
had that great opportunity. Not everyone has that opportunity to move several states away,
True.
but if you have that opportunity, take it, because so much of who you are and with actions you take and the things you do and the way you think is formed by the people around you.
So
And
true.
when
Mm.
I got away, it truly made a way for me. Like, it wasn't easy. I had to work. I had to wash dishes. I had to ride a bike to work. I took out student loans and worked full time to go to community college.
Yep.
But man, I wouldn't trade none of it. It was a blessing for sure.
So Harley said some things there, listeners, that I hope you picked up on. One of the things I'm sure many of us are familiar with are people, places, and things. And if you took in any program and probably in any institution, you've heard the importance of people, places, and things. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. If we're able to change our situation in terms of the people we surround ourselves, the things that we're doing on a daily basis, it starts to open opportunities. The other thing I'm really happy that you said too was with the change, it wasn't easy. So it came sacrifice, riding your bike, from going from a car making 4 or 5 thousand a week to now having to ride a bike to having to take student loans. You had to really recreate yourself and become a different version of yourself, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing I always like to tell our listeners is the importance of being uncomfortable. How do
Yep.
you feel about that?
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, I'm always uncomfortable, man. That's the
Mm-hmm.
only way to be. If you're
Mm-hmm.
not uncomfortable, it means you're not growing, you're not challenging yourself. Like,
Talk about it.
you
Talk
come
about it.
home, like maybe you can't move to a new city, maybe you got to go back home. A lot of guys are going to think you're being funny or different or changed up or whatever, but like you can't care about what those people think, man. The people who love
Mm-mm.
you, the people who are going to be there for you when you need to start that
Yep.
business and you need some help. It's not going
Yep.
to be them. It's going to be the people who see what you want for your new self. So I'll
That's right.
say I live in constant uncertainty, but as an
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur, that's a skill set. And as someone who's been in the streets or someone who's lived the lifestyle that Trent described, that's actually a strength to you that you
That's
can
right.
harness. It's not easy, but it's a
Nope.
skill set that a lot of people don't have. A lot of people are going to they're going to get a good job, but they're going to be sitting at their desk every day for the rest of their life. They're never going to
Yep.
achieve greatness. The people that achieve greatness are the people that can be uncomfortable and have a vision and pursue it even when things aren't always working out. And that's a skill set that formerly incarcerated people have a leg up on. So I'll say,
I agree.
last thing I'll add on that is, uh, there's research that shows people who have dealt with a lot of trauma early in life actually have a baseline entrepreneurial skill set that a lot
Yep.
of people don't have. The
Yep.
ability to operate with uncertainty is a skill set. All the
Mm-hmm.
billionaires, all the successful entrepreneurs that we admire, that's a skill set that a lot of people think is undesirable, but when you harness it and use it right, it can be a real asset.
So true. So true. And so for our listeners, many of us have experienced traumas at a young age. If you're not hearing what Harley's saying, he's saying take that and turn that into a blessing for yourself. Learn how to extract the greatness that is inside of you, and lean into that skill set because it's something that most don't have. And so let's talk about now. So now you're out, you're going to community college. Um, was that the gateway to you starting your own business? How did we get to honest jobs?
Yeah, yeah. So like I've always been a little entrepreneurial. Like, so just to be clear, I came home. It was about a year and a half before I went to community college. I didn't even think I could go to college. I had a prison
Mm,
GED, like Georgia
mm,
Department of Corrections GED.
mm.
So I was washing dishes for $8.25 an hour,
Yep.
but I was working overtime all the time. And one of the kids there, like a 16-year-old busboy, told me I'm going to college, or 17, whatever. He's about to go to college. I said, I wish I could go to college. I would study business. I want to get into business.
Mm.
Like, you can go to college. And I was like, no, man, I have a GED. And he's like, that's okay. The community college will let you in, man. So I applied, and I didn't think I'd get in, but I got in.
Wow.
And community college is nothing to look down on, man. It's a gateway
Not at all.
to something greater. So I just
Yes,
took
sir.
accounting. I took accounting. I took literature, which my writing and spelling is terrible. Still till today, my writing and spelling is
Same
terrible.
here. Same
But
here,
I
bro.
got through it, and I worked hard, and I got almost straight A's. I got like A's and B's. And while in college, I had all these different ideas. Here's the thing: is like I would be willing to spend $500 I had to start a little business rather
Mm-hmm.
than spend $500 to go have fun or spoil
Mm-hmm.
myself. And
Yep.
most of my businesses failed within like 6 months. I tried
Yep.
to start like a supplements brand where I was selling like creatine and protein and all this stuff with my own brand label on it. And
Mm.
I did that for a little bit, and then I said, you know what? You have to be a marketing expert to be good in this space, and that's not my skill set. Shut that down. I started a website where people could have me come clean their cars on site. I cleaned a
Mm.
couple cars, and I realized, this ain't
This
this
ain't
ain't
it.
for me. But I did that throughout college. I did like 6 or 7 little businesses, and although they failed, the value of the lessons learned along the way is like getting an MBA. It's like going to Harvard Business
Mm-hmm.
School, because
Mm-hmm.
that's where somebody could give you $1 million and you'll probably lose it all if you haven't learned how to
You
manage
definitely
money or
will.
how to run a
Mm.
business. So there's really
Yep.
no shortcut here, man. You just got to get
Nope.
in and start hustling, start trying, and don't be afraid to fail, and don't be
That's a
afraid to
fact.
ask people for connections and help. Because coming
Yep.
from where I come from and where a lot of these listeners come from, you don't want to ask anybody for anything. You know,
Correct.
they say get it out of the mud,
Yep.
get it how you
Yep.
live, whatever. So
Yep.
nothing comes free. Well, in business, man, it's all about relationships. You got to ask people. You got to be willing to work with other people if you want to build something great. And
That's a fact.
Jay Z said people always get hung up on ownership and equity. He said, I'd rather own 5% in a multi-billion-dollar business than own 100% of a $1 billion business.
That's
Like,
right. That's right.
get hung up on you being the star of everything. Like, we're all
Yep.
learning how to be
Yep.
great. And
Yep.
I didn't mean to get on my high horse here and preach, but like, this is
Nah.
something
Go
I'm
with it.
passionate about. And
Now but you're right, and everything you're saying is absolutely true, bro. It takes sacrifice. It takes also humbling yourself. And I love that what I call it is failing forward. I've started and failed more businesses than most. I know that for a fact, just like you said. But every single time I tell people I never failed because I learned. And I know they say taking an L. I said I've never taken an L because I turned every L into a lesson
yep,
I've been able to apply moving forward. And to this day, I'm still taking L's, but those L's are just lessons for me. So I know no matter what I'm going through, I'm gonna need what I'm going through because it's gonna make me a better person in the future at some point. And
yep.
so couldn't agree more, bro. And so you start a couple businesses. Some fail. Well, they all ultimately fail out, I would assume. How do you end up on honest jobs? Like, how did you end up in that space?
Yeah, yeah. And just to be fair, like, I say they failed, but really I shut them down. I just
Mm-hmm,
decided
mm-hmm,
to stop
mm-hmm.
pursuing it. I mean,
Right.
you really only fail when you decide to stop. That's when you
That's right.
fail. And again, like you
Yep.
said, I never really felt like it was failure.
Nope,
So
it wasn't. It wasn't.
I did well in community college. I applied to the Ohio State University, the business school there, and I got in.
Mm.
So I did
Mm.
2.5 years studying business at Ohio State to get a bachelor's degree.
Fire.
And honestly, at that point, I had said, you know what? I'm so lucky to get into the school and have this opportunity. I'm not like I'm entrepreneurial, but really I just want to do well in my grades so I can get a good job, man. I want to be able to
Mm.
overcome
Mm.
my past and just have like a normal life where I own a house, I have a family, I have a good career.
Yep.
And all through college, I was still volunteering, going into the Ohio prisons, mentoring
Mm.
people, uh,
Mm.
doing volunteer work there. But my senior year, I graduated with honors. I was like top of my class. I had a great resume. I had great letters of recommendation. And I applied for probably 70 jobs before I graduated. And
Yeah.
probably 60 of those 70 jobs gave me first round, second round interviews. Probably 50 of the 60 interviews led to job offers. And every
Mm.
single job offer was rescinded after my background check. So
Damn.
I ended up graduating unemployed. You
Damn.
know, guys that I was in school with who were getting C's in my classes were getting jobs. But me
Yep.
getting like straight A's, I couldn't get a job because a mistake I made when I was 18 years old had,
Yep.
So here I am. I got a good credit. I got a college degree. I got references. I got transportation, housing. Everything's right. But I can't get past this mistake.
Mm.
And what
Mm.
I know and what we both know, everyone on the call probably knows, is there's millions of people who have records that are going to have it way harder than I had it in that moment. There are people
Mm.
that are going to have not transportation, not housing, not good credit, not a good education. And on top of that, there's gender and race and
Yep. Yep. Yep.
stigma around like dreads or tattoos, whatever it may be,
Yep.
that's going to make it way harder for them. So,
And violence. Can't forget violent offenders. They got it super
yep,
hard.
violent offenders, sex
Yep.
offenders, people
Yep.
with, like armed robbery, right? Or robbery at all.
Yep.
Like employers are very
Mm-hmm.
hesitant to hire anybody with
Mm-hmm.
that type of crime. So,
Agreed.
but really all that realization led me to think like, I did eventually get a job. It was like 3 months after graduation. I got a job at a manufacturing plant making insulation. So like imagine graduating from college with honors and then yeah, so it wasn't the
Mm.
dream, right? I worked there for about a year and a half, and I was promoted to management and I was getting paid all right, but I was working brutal hours, like going home covered
Yep.
in insulation every day. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the dream. So I was working an extra 10, 20 hours a week on my time off to
Mm,
figure out how I could solve this problem that I dealt with. I knew there were millions of other people
mm.
dealing with it. So I started doing all this research, and I realized that like this is costing our economy billions of dollars every year, hundreds of
Yes,
billions of
it is.
dollars, because
Yes, it is.
all these
Yep.
people with talent are not being utilized to generate income for themselves, their families, but also tax dollars. Like our government
Yep.
is losing hundreds of billions of dollars because talented people are unable to find a job. So
Right.
that's when I decided to launch Honest Jobs. It was probably about 6 months after graduation. I started working on it, and I was very blessed. We can talk about it more, but I was able to find some investors early on that believed in the vision.
Well, and yeah, let me stop you before we go there because one thing I definitely want our listeners to understand this is this is a common situation that Harley's talking about. Same situation. I come home, I can't get a job. I end up working temp agencies. My big break came in the form of cleaning toilets at a Marriott. Right. I go from from cleaning toilets at the Marriott to the general manager within 6 years. It was a 6 year trajectory. Um,
Mm,
but before that, every single job I had, they would say no because I got once they seen that felony conviction.
yeah,
And so you're gonna have to grind it out. You're gonna have to humble yourself. You're gonna have to do things that you might not want to do. Another thing that Harley said that I could just see our story, our synergies are so crazy, bro. Because I ended up taking college courses at Marist while I was incarcerated, though. And for me, that was my aha moment because I had the highest grades in the class. And so I
yeah,
was like, oh, I'm actually a little bit smart if I apply myself, you know? And
yeah,
so, and that kind of drove me to be a forever learner. The difference is I've never gone on to get my actual degree. Something that I actually still toy around with from time to time, just because I have 4 children now and I want to lead by example. But I just haven't made the commitment. But I know for a fact when I'm ready to do so, I'm gonna be a fucking rock star because I'm gonna give it
yeah,
all I have and have great grades and go from there. And so for the listeners, again, just understand it's not gonna be easy, but it is possible, and it just takes some work, it takes commitment, and it takes a drive. The other thing I want to highlight that you said is something that most people don't know or consider. But because we have these records, there's a higher amount of individuals who are actually going to explore entrepreneurship. On average, nearly 50% of individuals who have criminal records end up exploring entrepreneurship out of necessity. And
yeah,
so, understanding that if you have traumas at a young age, you're equipped a little bit different, lean into those things and find out what it is that you can do that solves a problem. That's what Harley did. This was a problem he needed to solve. My business that took off was a problem around transportation that needed to be solved. The premise of business is solving a problem and getting compensated to do so. So go
yeah.
ahead, Harley, and tell us about how now you went on to raise funds because people believed in what you were doing.
Yeah, so the basic concept started as me just wanting to get people coming home from the prison near me in Ohio. There was a prison near me. Guys coming home, I wanted to help them find their first job.
Right.
And I found two manufacturing companies that said, look, if you bring us people and they're ready to work, we'll interview them. Uh, so it wasn't like this big grand vision in the beginning. It was,
Mm-hmm.
taking the first step. This company ended up hiring three people I sent them, and they were giving me a check for $500 every time. And I'm like, okay.
I can
Now
do
I
this.
just need,
Yeah.
I just need to find, like, find a couple more companies that will do this, and I can quit my job. Like I can do
Yep.
this full time. That's like a
Yep.
dream for me. It's something I'm passionate about, and I was working on that. But I was getting $1,000 a month, maybe not enough to quit my job.
Right.
And at the same time, I had started posting like videos on YouTube. I had started this little online community
Mm.
uh, where people could join. It was like $7 a month. If you were formerly incarcerated, you could join, and we'd get together and talk about helping each
Mm.
other and how to rebuild credit, how to find a house, how to find a job. So I kind of had these two things I was working on, and a friend invited me to a party. It was at a bar. She was moving to New York from Columbus, Ohio, and she said, "I want you to come to my going away party." I'm just sitting at the bar waiting to order a drink. This is actually, I don't even know if I was drinking at the time. Maybe, maybe not, because I was probably on probation. So it probably wasn't. But I was at the bar, and this dude, I don't know who he is, just introduced himself. And he asked me what I do. And I said, well, I work in manufacturing right now, but this is what I'm really pursuing. So
Mm.
again, being
Mm.
willing to tell people your vision and what you're working on, don't be ashamed of it. I told
Right.
him, I said, look, I work in manufacturing, but I actually recently graduated from the business school, and this
Mm.
is what I really want to do. And he goes, well, why do you want to do that? And I said, well, I was incarcerated at a young age. I had all this childhood challenges. And he said, I want to give you my business card. I really like what you're working on. Shoot me an email.
Mm,
I'd love to see, I want to hear more about your vision and see if I can help.
mm,
And you know how many people tell me to send them an email when I don't, but I'll tell you I
mm-hmm,
did. I actually sent this guy an email, and it was the lucky break for me because he sent me back an email with all these ideas and notes and feedback and said, let's schedule a time for a Zoom call. So I
mm,
get on a Zoom call with this guy, and he tells me, I really like what you're doing. I want to find a way to support you. He says, my son was incarcerated, was arrested in New York with a lot of the same drugs you got caught with. But because I
yep,
have money, he didn't do
mm-hmm,
nothing. I got him off scot free. He didn't do no time, nothing. So this
damn,
guy ended up, he was a freaking hedge fund manager for Merrill and Lynch in Manhattan.
home
And
run.
actually, he had told me he had invested in like 15 technology companies and he wanted to invest in me. And
Damn,
I said, I don't even know how that works. Like, yeah, if you gave me
mm-hmm,
that money, I would put all my energy into this. I'd figure it all out and work hard. And, this is when preparation meets opportunity, right? People aren't just going to give you money. You have to be always ready. You got to be
that's right.
ready for when the
Stay ready.
opportunity comes because people don't give money to people who have an idea, but they haven't already put in a bunch of work. So
That's
I got
right.
real lucky. This guy said, hey, man, fill out this form. It's an investment document. Fill it out. There's only a couple blanks you got to fill in, and I'll send you the money. And this dude
Mm,
sent me $100,000 for less than
damn,
10% of the company. And
damn.
it wasn't even really like a whole business yet. It was like these two little things I was working on. But that guy has been a major friend of mine. He came to my wedding. Him and his wife.
Mm-hmm,
I've stayed well connected with him. But that led to a whole series of opening up my network to people he knew.
right.
And ultimately, when other investors see that someone gave you money like that, they're way more likely to actually take your meeting and hear you out and believe that you're
Mm-hmm,
capable. So it
mm-hmm,
opened the door to me where I got into what's called a business accelerator program. It's called Techstars. Anybody
mm-hmm.
can apply for this. And when I got in, I got in during COVID. They gave me another 120 grand. So now I'm like, okay, I got a software engineer working for me. I got a salesperson working for me. And then during the program, after they gave me the 120 grand, it's a 3-month program where they help you organize your business and get your strategy together and all that. During the program, I met a billionaire who just loved my story.
Ooh, ooh.
Again, I would have never been in these rooms if I
Yep.
hadn't met that one person and preparation met opportunity. And I got in this room, I gave my 2-minute pitch to a room full of people, and this guy came up and said, hey, I'd like to mentor you. Well, 2 weeks later I find out
Mm,
he's a billionaire and he offers me 500 grand. And yeah, so he's not giving me nothing. Like
right.
they've
Right.
seen
Yep.
the muscle and the work I'm putting in.
Yep.
And so he offers me 500K. Another person at the event comes into the conversation and says, "Hey, if he's giving you 500, I'll give you 600. Let's do 1.1 million." And I raised 1.1 million dollars. This was probably 3 years ago. And then
Damn.
about 6 months after that, I raised another 1.7 million dollars. And the
Wow.
1.7 million included Stanford Graduate Business School. That's the school in San Francisco where
Yep.
all the big tech companies come from. Stanford University.
Yep.
A Harvard professor invested. I got all these amazing people now invested in my mission, and everything just becomes a lot easier once you have that social capital. Once you have people
Definitely.
that
Definitely.
believe in you. So
Definitely.
I'll stop there. But like the money has blessed my life in a way that even if Honest Jobs fails, even if my business fails, my life is forever changed because of the sacrifice I put into building this business and the time spent and the
Mm-hmm.
relationships built. Uh, but yeah,
I
that's
agree.
my so far.
No, bro. I could honestly say, man, I'm inspired by hearing what you've been able to do, and a big portion of that comes down to networking too. Like you keep emphasizing being prepared and ready for the moment. But you also got to be able to speak to people. You got to be able to clearly uh articulate what you have going on. People have to feel comfortable being able to do business with you. Trust
Yeah.
your word, trust the work ethic that you're going to put in. Because the key thing is, a lot of times people hear raising funds, and like you said, it's just not someone giving you money. When you're raising funds, it's someone who's actually believing in your vision. They're willing to back it and support it in some capacity, but there is an expectation too.
Oh yeah.
And so,
Oh yeah.
we still have to show up. Like you said, you still have to show up every day and work hard. And
Yeah.
so now you got it off of the ground, you raised some funds. Where are you at today with the company? And talk a little bit about what you guys do and how you're helping people who are incarcerated.
Yeah, happy to do that. I want to comment on one thing you said because I think it's so important. Is you got to be able to talk to people, and
Mm-hmm.
I did not know anything about business. I did not know anything about money. I did not know any of this. I didn't grow up around people who had money. I didn't grow up around business. It wasn't until 4 or 5 years after incarceration, probably, I started to really learn business terminology.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a whole
Mm-hmm.
different language these people speak, and that's
Yes,
part of why
indeed.
people are stuck in poverty is the
Yep.
financial education, the business acumen that people just don't know the language. Like, you could have all the passion and the skills, but you got to learn the
Yep.
language. And what
Agreed.
changed it for me was podcasts and YouTube, man. A
Ah.
sense of curiosity and the internet. Like, there,
Mm.
every single day I was listening to podcasts.
Yep.
A podcast I would highly recommend is How I Built This.
Mm.
It's called How I Built This, and he interviews hundreds of CEOs of companies and you start to pick up, like, they're not teaching you the language, but you start to understand the patterns of okay, what
Yes,
does that
sir.
mean? You Google it.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
now I understand it. Every time somebody says it, I know what they're talking about.
Yep.
All these people from the suburbs that raise millions of dollars to build tech companies, they're no more skilled than any of you. They
Nope.
know the language to speak to
Yep.
unlock the bank accounts. So
Yep.
that's what I learned that really helped me. But where the company is today, what we're doing. So Honest Jobs is a free online platform. You just go to honestjobs.com. It's for currently and formerly incarcerated people. If you're currently incarcerated, we have an application on tablets inside the jails and prisons
Mm-hmm.
that allows people to search jobs. So we have 1,600 companies that post jobs with us.
Mm.
And all of these companies, we have verified that they do hire people with felonies. In
Mm.
our app, you can also tell us what your crime is, like what you were convicted of. We don't share that with anybody. We don't share it with employers. We don't show it to nobody, but it will show you how likely you are to make it through the background check for a job before you even apply. And this has
Mm.
been a game changer. We've gotten thousands of people hired who have told us this made it a lot easier for me to understand where I should spend my time. I want to interview, I want to apply for jobs where I actually have a good chance of getting hired. So
Yep.
people have found jobs about 7 times faster than your other job boards or, a
Yep.
staffing agency or a temp agency. So that's the core of our business. But so there's the application inside jails and prisons. That application gets over 5 million searches a month. So
Mm.
incarcerated people are searching it constantly. It's one of the most
Mm.
successful apps to ever be inside jail and prison. On the outside, when you come home, you can create a free account, go to honestjobs.com, and you can apply for those jobs. You can actually search and apply for jobs. You can create a resume. We also have a digital resource center. So any zip code in the country, you can figure
Mm.
out very
Mm-hmm.
easily where you can
Mm-hmm.
get your birth certificate, your social security card, a bus pass, short-term housing, all
Wow.
types of government programs, nonprofit programs. So that's the app for
Wow.
people like me and people like Trent and people like you who are coming home saying, I got to rebuild from scratch. Where do I start? Honest
Yep.
Jobs is a great place to go and start. Now, the business model, we don't make any money off of incarcerated or formerly incarcerated people. It's free to you
Mm.
guys. But what
Mm.
we do is our applications are helping reduce recidivism and they're helping get people back into the workforce faster. And our
Yep.
government spends hundreds of millions of dollars a year to
Yes,
try
indeed.
and reduce recidivism, to try and
Yep.
improve public safety, to try to get people into housing, all these different programs. So what we've done is we've created software that we provide to the Department of Corrections and to probation and
Mm.
parole and nonprofits. And the software is essentially our jobs, our resources, but also a way for, let's say, a parole officer, they can invite their parolee, their client gets access to Honest Jobs, they can refer their clients to jobs and resources, and they can collect a lot of data. And ultimately, we're
Mm.
helping parole departments get better outcomes. So what that means is people on
Mm.
probation and parole in a city are finding jobs faster, they're finding transportation faster, and we're saving them money. And we actually are charging probation, parole, and the Department of Corrections for our various solutions. But it
I
took us
love it.
years to
I
figure
love
out
it.
the business model. Our business model in the beginning was strictly making money off of companies hiring people through us.
That's what
We
I would
we
thought. That's what I would assume. That's what I
we
literally would assume. That's
so we've so far we've made about $2.3 million in revenue, and I'd say probably 60 to 70% of that was from employers hiring people through us. But we kind of felt like most employers who will hire people with records don't want to pay. They'll hire them, but they don't really want to pay us. And that was just,
Mm, mm,
if a small business will hire 10 formerly incarcerated people every year, but they can't afford to pay us, we still want to help them do that. But what we
right.
found was the government and nonprofits are getting grant dollars and government funding to do this work. We can become a line item on their budget. So if
Mm,
Goodwill, let's just say Goodwill gets 100 million, or let's say they get 20 million a year from the government, can they give us 200 grand a year?
right.
Yeah,
Right.
they could.
Right.
That's
Right.
really what we're doing is we're trying to be a value add. We're trying to add value to the nonprofits doing this work and the government agencies doing this work. And that business model is working really well. Over the last year, we've been transitioning to that, and it's going really well.
I
And the
love it.
truth is we're embedding ourselves in the carceral system. So
Yes, indeed.
everyone who interacts with the justice system ends up getting connected with honest jobs,
That's a
and
fact.
it's going to make our business. The social impact is clear. We're going to change lives. We're going to help people
Hmm.
like you and me.
Hmm.
But the business, man, it's going to be worth billions of dollars. Like
Mm.
I truly believe that honest jobs is going to end up being worth $1 billion, and it will
I can see
be
it.
worth the money while also doing good. And that's what I'm really, really proud of.
I love it, bro. I love the model. I love how it's changed. I love the social impact it's having. I love the vision, get to the billion status. And
And
I can see it happening, bro. I can see it
yeah,
happening for you. Because, what I've learned is with impact, then comes the financial gain. And
yeah,
so the more people we could positively impact, then we could figure out ways to monetize too. And so it's coming your way, brother. And I just love what you're doing. You you might not, you probably don't even, I know you don't know this actually, but so when I get a lot of outreach, oftentimes I'm directing people to your website, to the Honest Jobs platform, and
love
then
that.
I get outreach from individuals like organizations around the country. All I ever do is I say, "What's your zip code?" Or what's this individual's housing zip code? They send it to me. I go on the app because I have the account, and then I'll look up businesses that are in the area, and then I just send it to the person who was asking. And so I'm a huge advocate of it. As you know, I've also tried to do some things in New York State. I know that there's going to be some things more to come. I'm gonna definitely continue to try to work my angles. But I love the impact you're having, brother, and I love the fact that our listeners, now that you're familiar with this, if you weren't already, take advantage of. Take advantage of. Go on there. Now are you guys on Securus Network, a Devo, or both of those already?
Uh, so we're on Securus tablets, Viapath tablets, Origin
Bypass
tablets, and
origin.
Nucleus tablets.
Okay.
So we're
All right.
we're there's only like one tablet provider that we're not on that I'm aware of, and they're only in jails. Uh,
Gotcha.
so
Okay.
so
Okay.
I believe we're on like a million tablets. We're almost
Mm. I love it. Yeah, bro. So now, in terms of, so that's what you have going on now. That's where you foresee the business in the future. You're going to get it to the billions status. As individuals are those who are listening in, what sort of advice would you give to someone who, let's say, is going to be getting released in the next couple of months, that you would tell them they should prepare for to make it an easier transition into the workplace, utilizing your app?
yeah. Oh, utilizing my app. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, so what I would say is try to find the best person you have who has a professional job or a college education. If you haven't had a professional job or college education, try to find someone who does. Uncle,
Hmm.
brother, neighbor, anybody, someone you used to go to school with who can help you with the basics. There's some very basic stuff that you just need to have right. Uh, One of those is a professional email. You need to have an email. At Honest
Mm-hmm.
Jobs, you have to have an email to sign up. We have people sign up that their name is like
Been
thug95 at
right.
gmail.com. And I'm like, no one's going to hire you when they see your application. So you need to set
Right.
up a harley.blakeman at gmail.com, right? You need
That's
like
right.
a normal email.
Yep.
And to set up like an email signature, you need to have a resume. Look, if your
Hmm.
resume has grammar or spelling errors in it, you're not going to get a call back. And I talk to people all the time who are they're angry at the world because no one will hire them because they're a felon. And I'm like, no, they don't even know you're a felon. They're not calling you back.
Mm.
your email looks bad and your resume has
Yep.
spelling errors in
Yep.
it. So you got to make sure this fundamental stuff is right. Resume, uh, email, and then another one is social media. I mean, look,
Mm.
Instagram accounts or stuff online that is showing, even if it's stuff from 10 years ago, is showing you drinking, smoking, doing
Yep.
stuff that doesn't look professional. I know it's
Yep.
cheesy, man, but you got to make your online profession, you got to make your online appearance match the future vision of what you're trying to do. So those are
Talk
a
about it.
couple things. Once you
Yep.
got those things knocked out, you can go to honest jobs. Uh, don't put off tomorrow what you can do today.
Talk
So
about it.
immediately try to look when you go try to get a birth certificate, social security card, they're going to give you the runaround. You're going to have to go back 5, 6 times probably. So
Mm.
be prepared for that. Don't give up, because if you give
Don't
up
give
on
up.
that, you might as well go back to prison, because if you can't figure out how to do it, I know that sucks, but you're going to have to figure out how to find that birth certificate, that social security card, all of that. Once you have that stuff, because you can't even get a job sometimes if you don't have that stuff. So you gotta take care of that stuff.
Very
And
true.
then on honest jobs, for free, go to the app, attach your resume. You can do it from a mobile phone. It's super easy to use. Don't apply for 1 or 2 jobs. Apply for 25 jobs. And
Mm.
and
Mm.
also
Mm.
another thing I'm very particular about this is we don't have the privilege of waiting for the great job that we think we want. You apply for 25 jobs, and if you get a job offer, you take the job offer.
Mm.
And the next day, if somebody offers you a better job, you go to that job. You always are looking for two things. You either want to get a job that pays you more, or you want to get a job that allows you to learn new skills.
Can I say three
And
things or opportunities?
yeah,
Or opportunities.
please.
The only thing I would.
Opportunities, yeah.
That's it. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And all through college, I know it looks bad. You shouldn't hop from job to job to job. But when you're living in poverty and you're trying to make it out,
Yep.
you got to hop from job to
That's
job.
right.
So I was washing dishes for $8.25 an hour, but
Yep.
2 years later, I was making $13.50 an hour, because I went every opportunity I had to make a little more or learn some new skills or a new opportunity, I took it.
Yep.
So I call it the ABCs. You need to find any job, then a better job, and then a career. You cannot
Hey.
start with a career. You can't. It's not going to work.
I like that.
And I know it's I love that J. Cole song about pride. Pride is the devil.
Yep.
Your pride will ruin your life
That's
if
it.
you're not willing to just say, pride aside, I'm a grown man, grown woman.
Yep.
I got to take charge of my life, and if that means I got to wash dishes for 6 months
So be
or
it.
until I get a better job offer, so be it.
Yep.
So look, we got good jobs and honest jobs. So apply for a lot of jobs. In the app, you can also find all those social services in your area. There's government programs, nonprofits. Use that. And then, of course, if you get hired or you like the app, go to Google and leave us a review.
I love it. I love it. So
Yeah.
you guys heard it right there first from Harley. He gave you the blueprint. And everything he said, I can attest to. I stamp. He's 100% right. It definitely starts with the personal branding. That's something that I teach with my Roadmap to Success program to individuals who are currently incarcerated. I always say when you come home, if I see you on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook before I see you on LinkedIn, we already have a problem. Because if you're really,
LinkedIn, man.
if you're really serious about what you're trying to do, you're going to surround yourself and put yourself into those spaces,
Yeah.
you know?
Let me leave one more nugget to back what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
I know I don't know that many friends from growing up that are on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm on LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
and I go hard on LinkedIn.
Same here, brother.
Not so much, maybe not so much recently, but man, I'm on LinkedIn posting, commenting,
Yep.
giving video updates, all types of stuff.
Yep.
And I'll tell you, 4 or 5 years ago when I just started my business, I posted a video on LinkedIn that went a little viral. I got lucky. And I got a call from a woman named Jessica Jackson. You might know her. She's now the CEO of Reform Alliance. She just got promoted to the CEO of Reform
Okay.
Alliance. Got a call from Jessica Jackson. Didn't know who she was. And she said, "Hey, Harley, I'm with Kim Kardashian right now." I got a random phone call. She said, "I'm sitting with Kim Kardashian, and we saw your LinkedIn post. We're wondering if you could come to the White House next week. We're going to be at the White House." I got invited to the White House because
Shit.
of my LinkedIn networking, man. So
Shit.
look, tell your story. Show people that you're showing up every day, fighting for what you believe in,
Mm-hmm.
and doors will open up for you. So
That's
just
right.
keep
Right.
pushing, and know that the old way is not the better way.
That's right. Harley, one question I always ask all of our guests is the last question. if you could go back and now tell your 17, 18-year-old self, the right before you got into trouble, you know, looking back with hindsight being 2020, if you could go back and tell that young version of Harley, hey, if you do these things, you can avoid this pitfall, um, and you'll be successful in life. Would you take that trajectory, or saying how I believe that I needed prison, it changed my life, or would you not change anything about that trajectory so that you would end up in the space you are today?
Yeah. The truth is I think advice sometimes people are constantly giving us advice,
Yep.
but sometimes you got to live through something. You got to personally live it.
Yep.
And I believe that incarceration was what I needed.
Yep.
I believe incarceration gave me the experience and the time to really sit and think and plan and
Yep.
realize where my life was heading. So I wouldn't change it. Now, I do think that a lot of the listeners, I know this sounds corny, but what I wish somebody would have done at that time was just tell me that they love me
Mm.
and that they believe
Mm.
and that I deserve, that you deserve to be loved.
That's right.
If you're in prison listening to this and you don't have no family visiting you, you're not getting phone calls, you're not getting commissary, whatever it may be, just know that like we love you.
That's
I
right.
know it sounds crazy. I'm a grown man telling other grown men that I love them, but that's you got to know that you're worth something
I agree.
for you to care about your own future.
Yes, sir.
And that's what was missing from me when I was 17 was I didn't realize
Yep.
that I should care about my future because I should love me,
Mm.
the people around me should love me.
Mm.
So like as corny as it sounds, that's what I wish somebody had spent more time telling me at that young age.
Yep.
I think I needed prison because I didn't have that, right?
Mm.
If I had that, maybe I wouldn't have needed prison.
So true.
And yeah, so look, just
Now you said
you deserve love,
you deserve
and you're
love.
gonna kill it when you come home, man. Pursue that. Find people that love you, man, and work hard.
There it is, y'all. You guys heard it right out of the mouth of Harley Blakeman, the CEO, founder of Honest Jobs. As he said, man, one thing about it, we all can use a little hope, a little motivation. There's greatness inside of you. You just need to extract it and learn how to extract it. Surround yourself with people who can help you do that. In addition to make yourself uncomfortable so you can grow. Understand that it's going to take sacrifices for you to get to where you want to go, strategy, but don't shy away from the work, and never regret. Understand that it's happened for a reason, but it doesn't mean that you can't get to where you want to go. And so with that being said, Harley, I want to once again thank you, brother, for being here. I knew this was going to be a great episode. I knew you had a lot of jewels to provide. Tell them where they could find you, your handles online, as well as one more time, just let them know where they could find the Honest Jobs link, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Trent said, create a LinkedIn account. I
Mm-hmm.
know it's intimidating, but set
Mm-hmm.
up LinkedIn. That's where I'm at. That's where you can connect with me. I got an Instagram and a Twitter and all that, but I don't use it all that much
Same
because
here. Same here.
a lot of noise on there that I'm not trying to hear. So
Yep.
I focus on the professional side a little bit more.
Yep.
But yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn, and then on the website is just www.honestjobs.com. So definitely go to the website and check it out. Of course, we have honestjobs.com. There's an Honest Jobs LinkedIn page and Honest Jobs Instagram page, all that stuff. So
Yes,
I
indeed.
appreciate the plug, and I hope all of you guys create an account when you come home and follow us online.
That's right. So reach out to Harley, reach out to myself. Like Harley said, man, we love you. That's why we do this. This is why we take the time
That's
out,
real.
honestly, because we love you. We understand the experience, and we want you to know it is possible. And so you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we really appreciate that. And so once
Yep.
again, Harley, thank you for joining us, and thank you for the listeners for your time as well today. Blessings to all.
Hey, thank you, Trent.